for Inside Utah Politics with Lindsay Aerts.
Well, welcome in to our daily edition of IUP TV. This is where we take Inside Utah Politics and expand on it a little bit, have these daily conversations about all the things happening in both local and national politics. I'm joined today by a couple of panelists who I'm super excited are here, Erin and Sarah Reale. Let me introduce them in just a minute, but I do want to let you know that we are coming on right after the selection of a new pope, an American pope at that, so we're going to touch on that. Also going to talk about a curious move today by Salt Lake City to create their own city flags in the themes of pride and transgender awareness and Juneteenth, kind of a sidestep of the law from the legislature. We will hit on a big public land sale or a proposal to sell some public lands in Washington County, and then also want to talk, if we have time, we'll get to some tariff conversation as well. Producer Peter's here. Hi, Producer Peter.
Hi, folks. Yes, I am
Look
here.
at your sweet sweater vest today.
Yeah, showing off a little
Okay.
bit as much as I can rotate here.
You guys know I love Peter, and I never say anything maliciously. But last week, Peter, I made fun of him because he was in a t-shirt.
Deservedly.
And sometimes he looks like he's rolled out of bed and come to work, which is probably fair. That's probably a fair characterization.
Today I dressed up a little bit. I knew I was going to be on camera, and I love this shirt.
Right?
It's the spring.
It's
yes.
like crocheted. It's like
I can't believe we're talking about my outfit first, though.
Well, if you look at our panel right now, you can see that
missed the memo.
someone's wearing a very sparkly vest. Or jacket, I should say.
Yeah.
Sarah Reale, introduce yourself and the motivation behind the sparkly vest.
I'm happy to be here. And this is going to be my ABC4 Inside Utah Politics jacket.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's from the DI, and I got it when I had to dress up as Fran Drescher for the nanny.
Of course you did.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
We need some sparkle in this world.
And we don't need to remember your name. Just say that one lady that was wearing the sparkly vest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly,
It's your
Lindsay.
brand.
Yes, yes.
I love that. Okay. Tell us who you are.
I am a Utah native, and I teach political science at Salt Lake Community College, and I'm on the Utah State School Board, and I'm a politics nerd, and I love this state very, very much.
It's so fun. And to be clear, your views do not represent the State Board of Education.
Nor Salt Lake Community College.
Nor Salt Lake Community College. So we're grateful that you're here. Erin, your turn.
Well, I didn't miss the gold sparkly blazer memo. I just chose not to participate in it.
You just don't have one.
That's right. Well, I do. Well, we'll just save that for another time.
You're always welcome to wear sparkly blazers on this show.
I don't have to up my game if I'm here with Sarah. So I'm Erin Ryder. I am an attorney. I was most recently the Republican nominee for Salt Lake County Mayor, and also a Utah native. Love growing up in this area and happy to be here.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to have some good conversations today. Let's dive right in, shall we? Let's just address the Pope. The new Pope just revealed as we're taping this show, Pope Leo the 14th, an American. I walked into the newsroom chanting USA, USA. I don't know if that's appropriate, but I did it.
Everyone in the USA is chanting USA right now.
What do you guys make of this news today?
I think it's really cool. I mean, this is the first time we've ever had an American Pope, and I am curious to see how his direction changes the Catholic Church. We saw a lot of change under Francis, a lot of move. You know, his whole thing was about caring for the poor and the needy, and he made some interesting decisions that influenced the direction the Catholic Church was going. We'll see what Pope Leo decides to do. I think in some ways he has some of the same ideals. But bringing an American perspective to this, too, is going to be really interesting. And I'm curious, how does that affect the Vatican's relationship with the United States, especially right now? And what does that sort of mean for Catholicism in America going forward? Lots of interesting dynamics here that we've never really had a chance to see.
It's such a big day for members of this faith. You can only liken it unto the dominant faith we have here in Utah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and getting a new prophet would be just, the biggest deal. It means so much to the members of that faith. Sarah, what do you make of that for people of the Catholic faith?
Yeah, I think it's important. This is probably the best day of his new role as a pope because it's going to be a lot of challenges and criticism. Constant criticism is what we've seen from Pope Francis. I think in the bigger context of it, I think it's really interesting how Americans have taken what these religious leaders have said, whether it's LDS or Catholic or whatever religion, and if they have teetered that line in talking about politics or anything, how folks have reacted. So it'll be interesting if he pushes the needle, if he stays pretty neutral, and how people react when he does maybe come out either in opposition to a political party or a policy, right?
Yeah, those social issues will be really interesting to watch. All right, lots to watch over.
Congrats to the Pope.
Yes.
Yeah, congrats to Leo.
Congrats. And USA. Okay, so let's move here locally. One of those social issues we should talk about now happened in Salt Lake City this week. Of course, it is after a day that all of our new laws take effect here in Utah. The legislature passed a bunch of new laws. A lot of them, if they didn't have a fiscal note, took effect on May 7th. So we're recording this after that date, which means a bunch of new laws are in effect. One of those, a ban on certain flags on government property. That includes pride flags. I'll also mention it includes any political flag, although some argue that a pride flag is not political, right? But you couldn't put a MAGA flag, right, in a school. So we ban flags and government property. Well, Salt Lake City came out this week and said, joke's on you, legislature. We're going to create our own city flags and adopt these, basically a pride flag, a transgender awareness flag, and then a Juneteenth flag with the sago lily on it, adopted them as official city flags, which really does mean, at least as I read the law, that they can fly anywhere because city flags are not exempt from this law. Erin, let me start with you. The ultimate troll of the legislature, or was this more divisive than it needed to be?
It was absolutely the ultimate troll. I mean, come on. They knew exactly what they were doing. Salt Lake City knew exactly what they were doing. The fact that they announced this right as the law was about to go into effect, come on. They knew from day one, what they were doing with this. I mean, I understand where they're coming from. Salt Lake City is very diverse, and I understand the concerns about not being able to express that on government property. However, I also think, I don't mind that our government institutions, you fly the American flag, the flag of the country, you fly the flag of the city, you fly the flag of the state, and that's just about it. I'm okay with that because it doesn't, on both sides, let's just let people believe what they want to believe without the government trying to force that. And we've actually seen where the Supreme Court has stepped in and said, on the other side, no, Texas, you can't have the 10 Commandments on government property. Like, you just can't do that. So I don't mind that the legislature took that path in that sense. It's fascinating that Salt Lake City decided to literally do an end run around this, and so the legislature's going to have to find a way to respond to it. How they do that, I don't know, and do they just let it go? Maybe, but
Have
I
you
don't know.
met our legislature?
I was going to say, I don't think that's the route they're going to go with this. It's possible. I doubt it, but where they go, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. Sarah, what do you make of the decision? This has a real big impact on schools, which you have a role in on the state board.
So I think that it was a fantastic move by Salt Lake City. I love it. I was hoping they were going to sue because I think that would be a great route to go. I just keep going back to, well, first of all, what this law has done has increased the amount of rainbow type things and or LGBTQ awareness, visibility type things in classrooms and in government buildings.
Because it only bans flags.
Right. So we have teachers who are now wearing pins or T-shirts. They're not a T-shirt. It's not a flag. It's a T-shirt. Or I heard of a teacher that took their flag down and made it into a cape and put it on a bobblehead. Not a flag. I mean, so now teachers are like, the actual passing of the law increased the amount of like, fine, I'm going to put a "You Belong Here" in rainbow in my classroom but not as a flag, right? I have teachers that are buying the City of Cusco flags, which are a rainbow flag with a little Cusco from Peru in it.
So there's all this conversation though about the intent versus the letter of the law. And to your point,
Right.
is that a violation of the intent of the law?
Well, it's just bad governing. It's a bad law. It's a useless law. It sucks up a lot of time. I'd way rather our legislature be talking about other things. We don't need to be nitpicking rainbow flags. If a teacher wants a rainbow flag, let them have a rainbow flag. It goes back to thinking that teachers are brainwashing students. The only thing teachers are brainwashing students, they'd like to brainwash students to do, is to sit in their desk and do their homework. It's a false narrative, it's boogeyman, and it's a waste of our time when we could be actually focused on real issues. So if you make a bad law, this is what happens. The city is going to troll you. Teachers are going to troll you. It's just a useless law.
Erin, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm torn on that. again, I think the basic idea of the law, if we're going back to intent, right? The intent of it is to say, let's create an environment where we're not forcing people to take stands on one side or the other of an issue, social issues. I like that. I think that's a good policy. I think that's a good idea, and that is what our educational institutions should be doing. We should have
we do have rules. We have rules
Yeah.
in place that say you have to remain neutral in the classroom.
Sure, and I this is where I'm conflicted, right? Because I know a lot of teachers who really just have the best of intent, and like you said, they just want their kids to do their homework. They're not trying to subvert the entire, education system in one go. So I want to give teachers some credit on that. But I also think, it's not inappropriate for the legislature to have a conversation about what should our classrooms look like, what should the dialogue in the classroom look like. And, we have elected bodies like the school board who can have those conversations. Where does that go in terms of a law like this? Yeah, this was not, this was a law that had a lot of loopholes to it and was trying to make a point. There were questions about whether or not the governor was even going to sign it, Anyway, so like I said, I think this is absolutely the ultimate troll.
Well, presumably these city flags of Salt Lake can be flown anywhere in the state now. A teacher in Provo could fly a Salt Lake City flag because it is an official city flag, right? So it really does kind of usurp the whole law, if you will. Want to take a look at a clip from the sponsor of this bill, State Senator Dan McKay, who was on our broadcast version of Inside Utah Politics. Producer Peter, will you set that up for us?
This is like a giant troll job of the legislature, which is fine, The hard part that, the rest of us are waiting for Salt Lake City to be taken seriously on homelessness, on crime, on, the fact that businesses are trying to do everything they can to depart downtown. And meanwhile, the mayor is raising property tax and playing cute games like this.
So
he's not wrong.
He took a few jabs. Is he right?
No, I mean, it's unfair. It's unfair because I think that the city, I'm not saying the city is perfect. I'm not saying that this administration is perfect in the city. But one, a lot of those property taxes are being raised because of the Ryan Smith megaplex sports extravaganza.
That the legislature set up.
Yes, that the legislature set up.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
the second piece is that the legislature has now inserted themselves in all homeless, planning that the city is doing.
But that's because Salt Lake City wasn't doing anything. Literally wasn't doing anything.
I understand that.
So the legislature was like, if you're not going to step up and do something about this, then we are going to force you to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's perfectly fine because even in my campaign for county mayor, so many businesses, there are businesses who have to hire private security to deal with homelessness issues because the police won't do it.
Right.
And the city won't take care of it. That's a huge, huge issue for our capital city.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you, and I do believe that there are major issues and we need to do a lot of work. I will counter that with, there isn't a city in America that's figured it out. And to me, a lot of our issues with homelessness come down to systemic issues. It's healthcare, it's education, it's affordable housing, and I think that there's only so much we can do, especially when we're seeing with this latest administration cutting Medicaid, cutting all these things, all the resources that people need to be able to get out of homelessness and into the world. We're cutting those, so it's going to be a systemic issue that is unfixable until we solve those.
I don't know. Well, we're running out of
No,
time.
go
Tell
on,
us if
go
we're
on.
moving on
No,
here.
I could listen all day. I could listen. We have 8 minutes, so keep going.
No, where do I want to go with this? How do I want to respond to you,
you guys
Sarah?
Brought this up, and she used to be a candidate for mayor of the county. It was a bad move. I'm a school board member. Come on.
Here's the thing. With the Trump administration, I don't mind. This is where it's fun having you and I on different sides of the aisle with this, right? Because I actually like the idea that the Trump administration is trying to push things down to the states and to say, states, you need to do a better job of dealing with this. Because having someone perpetually on Medicaid may not actually solve the reasons why they got on Medicaid in the first place. And we're seeing members of our own state legislature, Representative Tyler Clancy and others who are really trying to get into this and say,
great work.
hey, there are systemic issues. There are issues happening even before you get to things like drugs and alcohol and some of these other things. Let's deal with those. Let's get to the root of those and deal with it. But that's not necessarily, so having the Trump administration make those cuts, push it down, as long as there's a plan in place for how they're going to deal with that on the back end, I'm okay with that, right? But where Senator McKay is talking about come on, Salt Lake City, like you got to get your act together instead of taking your time fighting us on this issue. I mean,
but it is, come on, Salt Lake City, do something. And then Salt Lake City's like, will anyone anywhere else have a homeless shelter? And everyone's like, no homeless shelter in Kaysville, no homeless shelter where his district is, right? So that makes it hard. But I do agree with you. I mean, I'm a huge fan of federalism. I love having state control. But it just is hard when we don't have a lot of those structures in place and we're seeing those being taken away.
Well, we don't have them in place because the federal government took over all of them and did all of them.
You make a good point.
And so now we've got to push that down back to the states. The states have to figure out how to do that on their own. And there are things that we can do to, there are organizations here in the state that are doing really incredible things with the homeless community.
Yeah.
Let's promote that. Let's continue to support and foster that. Even if it's not the government itself that it's doing it, we can find ways to continue doing that. I would like to see Salt Lake City spend some more time trying to solve those issues instead of just fighting everything that the legislature does. I mean, I think this troll is super funny, honestly, and it's really clever on their part, but spend the time doing the job that needs to be done.
I hear you.
We devolved from flags to homelessness to all the issues of Salt Lake City, which we could spend all day talking about. So I appreciate your perspectives, both of you. Let's switch to this, the fate of the Utah GOP. On May 17th, the party will hold its organizing convention. They'll be electing a new party chair. They will also be voting on some of their constitutional proposals. No secret here that the Republican Party is a supermajority in Utah. It controls a lot of the policy. All of the major state leaders are of the party, right? So I like to spend a little bit of time in Republican Party politics. Erin, because you are of the party, I'll let you start with this. Describe for me what's at stake between Phil Lyman, one of the candidates for chair, and Rob Axson.
Yeah. So I will say this from the get-go. When I ran for county mayor, I was a convention-only candidate. So I did not gather signatures. I went through the convention process, put all my effort into that. I think there are a lot of great things about the caucus convention system. And the reason I bring this up is because this is one of the biggest issues at play here in this position for chair. Both Rob Axson and Phil Lyman have been clear that they support the caucus convention system. It's how they handle candidates who don't go through convention or who also gather signatures where they start to differ. Phil Lyman, I think, has made it pretty clear that he intends to go after every single person who doesn't only use the caucus convention system, and that's going to cause big problems. Honestly, what it will do, I think, my prediction is that if Phil Lyman were to win the chair position, the legislature will be forced to deal with the issue of SB 54, the signature gathering bill, and they will be forced to just kind of deal with the issues that bill has created over the last 10 years. And kind of resolve the question.
Do you think it goes away? Do you think we no longer have a convention path to the ballot? Because that
don't
is one
think
of the
so.
theories that is possible.
Sure, it is possible. I think things would have to be pretty intense for that to be the case. I think what they more likely do is they pass laws that make signature gathering easy enough that it effectively guts the convention. And so the convention still stands because you have members of the legislature who are supportive of the caucus convention
And voters
system.
like both paths. They like more options to the ballot, not less.
Absolutely. And so I don't know that the legislature is going to go out there and completely get rid of it, especially, like I said, because you have a lot of people who support it. But if you have a party chair who's actively targeting everyone he sees as a potential political enemy or who he feels has wronged him, then the legislature is going to have to respond to that.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch. Sarah, I want to get a Democrat's perspective on signatures versus convention, because I don't see this issue being debated on the Democratic side.
No, and I mean, we have candidates that do both.
Right.
It's interesting. It's like, imagine having the supermajority. Imagine also having the easiest pathway to win races with little to no effort. I mean, and still having this much chaos within the party. And what it really comes down to me is that, I mean, I'm all about electing good candidates, Republicans and Democrats. I'm about electing good candidates that do the right things and serve for the right reasons. And what's hard for me is every semester when I explain to my students how the caucus system works, and I'm like, you have to go to the precinct, and then you go to your caucus, and then you get to vote, and then it's on a Saturday all day long. And I'm like, and I'm trying to get them to be engaged, and I want them to get engaged. I want them to vote. I want them to be part of the process. I want our future generation to be picking the people that be on the ballot. And that process is so complex, so hard for busy people. So what we end up with are extreme versions, both parties, that are at precincts, that are at the caucus, that are at the convention. And I do not think that's a great way to elect candidates. And so I've always been a supporter of the signature gathering because it gives an opportunity for people to still engage in the process without showing up to Brighton High School for the whole day. And yours are much longer than mine, and I'm sorry for that. And be so involved in that process. So I hope that either it gets burned to the ground and we come out with something that's better for voters, or they figure out a way to keep that signature gathering.
I mean, to defend the caucus convention system for a minute, when it works, it's a great system because
Celeste Malloy got elected that way.
right, and it means it's neighbors coming together. It's truly a representative format. The problem is that it hasn't worked in many, many years, and that's why the signature gathering path came about. The other thing I do want to say about the fight between Phil Lyman and Rob Axon is that if Phil Lyman has been pretty clear that fundraising is not his priority. And for a party, you know, especially for a candidate like me who ran in Salt Lake County, you've got to be able to win general election races, or nothing that you do in the primary even matters. And I see some of these fights, frankly, as a red herring, because Salt Lake County Republicans only won 2 open races in all of the county last year in 2024. One of them was a pretty safe Republican seat. And so if we are not supporting down ballot candidates in the general election where that matters, I think it's pretty clear that Phil Lyman wants to put his fight into the primary and the internal battles, and I just wonder how that will go long term.
So much to watch. We have less than a minute, and I'm going to bring up a new topic. So give me your
Let's do
hot
it.
take on potential sale of federal land in Washington County. Leaders are saying this could be used for affordable housing. Our federal delegation Republicans are backing this because they say it's a solution, one, to affordable housing, but the local cities, St. George, Washington City, wanted this. This land, they say, is being unused. Good idea or slippery slope?
Slippery slope. I mean, I firmly believe that public land should be left open and for the public. I think that I don't like the argument that it's going to help with the deficit, because I just see the deficit growing for a lot of different reasons. And so this does not seem like a good way to take down the deficit of all the options that we have on the table. Like, not opening Alcatraz would be a great way to not take down the deficit. And then I also just think that Washington County should look for ways to create affordable housing, build up, do other things. We don't need to sell off public lands.
All right, my counter to that is 2/3 of the state is federally owned. Impossible for a state like Utah to continue to grow if 2/3 of your land is owned by the federal government and you can't touch it. So I think this is great. We should always be looking for options to this, because it's just unsustainable long term if the federal government owns everything we have.
We will leave it there. Erin Ryder, Sarah Reale, thank you both for your
Thank
time
you.
today. Thanks for discussing all of these hot topics with us. We'll be back for another episode of IUP TV soon.